I'm your Masters of Ceremonies today, and this is the formal proceedings for the conference of the decade after 9/11, Incitement to Hatred and Violence on the basis of religion or belief.
The Turkish Cultural Center is a non-political, non-governmental, not-for-profit civic entity that was established in 2006 by Turkish Americans that want to promote a strong Turkish-American friendship with the hopes that it would promote peace throughout not just these two great nations, but the rest of the world. The 12 branches of the Turkish Cultural Center operating throughout New York organizes trips, lectures, seminars, art exhibits, dinners, festivals, and conferences, such as today's event, touching upon a broad category of topics, all aimed at informing the public about Turkish Americans and issues important to all of us as a nation. In addition, the Cultural Center has and continues to organize many intercultural and interfaith programs and seminars, bringing people from different walks of life together, where we all learn to respect and appreciate each other for who we are without trying to change or infringe on the other, diminishing, if not abolishing, prejudices and false preconceptions about each other. As Turkish Americans, we are all Turkish and we are all American. We have the privilege of loving two countries, our motherland of Turkey and our adopted nation, the home of our children and our grandchildren, the United States of America. We are fortunate in that we never have to make a preference between the two identities that we hold so dear, since the values that we hold as Turks and the values that we hold as Americans overlap to such a large extent. For centuries, our motherland of Anatolia has been a crossroads of religions, not only of Islam and Christianity, but many other. Many religious devotees can still find a site, a shrine, a monument, or a tomb connected with their faith or their belief. The history and the notion of coexistence has been instilled in the Turkish people from the Hittites to the Lydians, from the Romans to the Seljuks, from the Byzantines to the Ottomans, continuing to the present day. All the people from different walks of life that have and continue to coexist in what is modern-day Turkey has instilled in the Turkish people, as a part of their inner core, values of acceptance and respect for those of other races, religions, colors, or creeds. Unknown to many Westerners, there are 236 churches and 34 synagogues open for worship daily in Turkey, where people practice their faith freely and without any imposition. With the leadership of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, modern-day Turkey was formed from the ashes of the Ottoman Empire and established as a republic, embracing democracy and humanity. Secularism was established by separating religious and state affairs, and Turkey adopted as their foreign policy the philosophy of preserving peace at home and peace in the world. These are still the same values and beliefs with which we Turkish people live their lives today. Now you understand why it is so easy to be a Turkish American. We share so many of the common values that there is no issue regarding preference. Today's conference is about September 11th. To adopt the words of Franklin Roosevelt, this too is a day that will live in infamy. But just as America has recovered from the horrors of Pearl Harbor and emerged as a stronger nation, we all expected America to recover quickly from this loss and emerge as even a stronger nation. To our disappointment, the recovery has not been as quick. Although this horrible attack was condemned by many Muslim leaders, most of their sincere thoughts, words, and concerns fell on deaf ears, and we as a nation turned on each other. I do not live in fear of any future attack from any terrorist group or see any terrorist act having the capacity to destroy us as a nation. But what I do fear is the fear itself. I am horrified of this fear which has caused America to turn on herself. Like a cancer that spreads from within, attacking the body's own cells, this unrelenting fear has caused Americans to turn against fellow Americans simply because of their religious beliefs. Better stated, simply because they are Muslim. Innocent until proven guilty seems to be a lost concept, replaced with the words guilty through association. The terrorists did not win by the attacks they made on 9/11. The brave men and women that have sacrificed so much on that day is a living proof of that. We can overcome any such attack as a nation. But the terrorists will prevail. They will prevail if we lose our faith in each other and sacrifice our values, sacrifice the values that make us Americans. If we throw out the Constitution if we put aside our core beliefs, our freedoms, if we start looking at each other with suspicion, well, my friends, if that is to happen, that's when the terrorists will claim their victory. For America will no longer stand for freedom or justice or equality. If that happens, America will cease to exist as the land of the free and the home of the brave. Stated differently, if that happens, America will no longer exist as America. And this thought horrifies me more so than any attack that any terrorist group could possibly conjure up. In the words of Benjamin Franklin, those who would give up liberty for security deserve neither and will have none. But there is hope. There are many individuals that will fight to protect our values, our way of life, our freedoms and our liberties without sacrificing our security. I thank all of our leaders that haven't continued on this path. But once again, I want to especially acknowledge the Honorable Fethullah Gülen in recognition of the leadership he displayed following the horrible events that occurred on September 11th. More Americans need to know of such Muslim leaders and the stance that they took and the contributions that they made and the contributions that they continue to make every day. Fethullah Gülen was the very first Muslim scholar who came out to the forefront and defied the terrorists, declaring a true Muslim cannot be a terrorist and a terrorist cannot be a Muslim. He went on to profess that according to Islam, he who unjustly kills one man is the same as if he kills the whole of humanity. For this reason, no one, and certainly no Muslim, can approve of any terrorist attack regardless of the reason. Describing the attacks on September 11, the Honorable Gülen went on to state that this terrorist activity is far more than an attack on the United States of America. It is an assault against world peace, as well as universal democratic, humanistic, and religious values. Although there may be some who exploit religion for their interest, Islam does not approve of terrorism in any form. The Honorable Gülen went further on to declare that bin Laden is among the persons in the world that he hated the most, as bin Laden had defaced the beautiful face of Islam. Gülen went on to pledge, "We shall speak on every platform everywhere. We shall write books. We shall declare, this is not Islam." Bin Laden replaced Islamic logic with his own desires and wishes and lived as a monster. We equivocally condemn their perspectives, their beliefs, and their acts. In the views of the Honorable Gülen and the millions of people, including the millions of Muslims that follow his teachings, this attack in America was an attack on all of us. It was an attack on all of humanity. But the screams of such Muslim leaders to be heard more clearly, for it is through this type of dialogue that we will remain united. To that end, we at the Cultural Center pledge to do all that we can to echo the voices of such Muslim leaders. We pledge to do all that we can to reunite us as a nation. We pledge to do all that we can to fight bigotry and hatred. We pledge to do all we can to preserve our values as Americans, as Turkish Americans.
Outstanding. And now we have a very special presentation.
Since Islam is a faith whose very name means peace, a faith that commands peaceful relations with all, regardless of creed, race, or nationality, a faith that tells us that life is created out of compassion, a faith that states that the unjust killing of one person is like killing all humankind, and the punishment for it is hell.
Now I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Carol DeHeer, the New York Institute of Technology.
Good morning, everybody. You know, the 10th anniversary of 9/11 and all the events for the past month, I think, have really brought a different perspective in our minds and our hearts.
I think this dialogue is especially important. So we in the media and we, the American public, and everyone throughout the world understands the great and tremendous difference there is, as Fethullah Gülen, I think, so eloquently said, between a Muslim and a terrorist, that there is a tremendous, tremendous distinction. I will tell you also that I didn't know that much about Fethullah Gülen until recently, until the last few months or two. And I'm so happy to hear about him. And I think his message is something that all of you, especially in the Turkish community, have so much to be proud of. I think it's incredibly courageous and an incredibly important message that he has initiated that dialogue, especially right after 9/11. And before I get forward, I just want to say that I make a vow as someone in the media that I will make sure that his voice and those of others like him are always heard. And I knew, as someone who had covered a lot of terrorism stories prior to 9/11, that the world had changed forever. Not just America, but literally everywhere. We were talking and you were mentioning some of the interviews and that kind introduction, Carol. One of the breakfasts that I will always remember, right after 9/11, of course, we had the UN General Assembly, which we had not too long ago. And I had a breakfast with Mohammed Khatami, then the president of Iran. And I asked him, he had started saying, you know, how terrible this act was, how horrible this act was, you know, what a terrible, you know, feat this was on America. And then I asked him a telling question. I said, what is the difference between George Bush, our president at the time, and Osama bin Laden? And I thought his answer would be, oh, you know, this is a democracy, this is a horrible person. His answer was, there is no difference. They are both terrorists. And it showed to me a stark, important reminder and a stark, important awakening of how important it is for both sides to have an understanding. It showed that they are miles apart. Democracy is still under attack throughout the world, in great countries like Turkey, and also in great countries like America. And I hope that this conference today continues to strengthen the bond between the two countries, that the voices of Fethullah Gulen are broadcast in every corner of the world. Turkey and the United States have such a critical relationship. In 2002, I interviewed Bülent Ecevit, then, of course, the Prime Minister of Turkey, and he said to me that he was concerned about us going into Iraq, but also spoke very much a message of peace, very much a powerful message. And I think it's so important that Americans and we in the media understand the pivotal role that Turkey has played. You know your borders are with Iraq, Iran, Syria, and many others. It is a critical, strategic, important place in the world, also philosophically an important place. To have a democracy there in that part of the world is so important for us. Your president just recently came out and condemned Bashar Assad and what he was doing, and I thought that was extremely courageous and so powerful to do so. And I hope my message today, and I hope what I will continue to do with my fellow colleagues and also with all Americans, is to make sure that the distinction is heard over and over again. I'm an immigrant. My parents both came from different countries. My mother's Danish, my father's Polish. I grew up in a place where I knew that the world was much bigger than America and that we all sort of come from somewhere. So when the attacks of 9/11 happened, me as American and me also as a journalist, I did not view it as Muslims attacking America. I viewed it as horrible fanatics using an excuse, using Islam, I thought, unfairly, using their faith unfairly. And I hope that I can continue to push that message so people understand that there are wonderful Muslims out there who are doing incredible things and are amazingly contributing to this country and everywhere throughout the world.
9/11